Welcome, everybody. Very excited that you are joining us today. Today, we have a very interesting webinar, and more than a webinar, it's a live building session. So, today with me is Alex. Alex is part of the Make team, and he's gonna show us something very excited. So, just before we jump into it, first thing, this is a live session, so it's aimed to anyone interested in launching AI voice agents with Make. That's the main goal for today. This session will be recorded and will be shared. And if you have questions, please add it in the chat. We also have the Q&A section, so feel free to write any question you have at any moment, and let's go to it. Now, Alex, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Now, Raul, did you want to go ahead and trigger the poll first before we end up getting into the agenda? Let's go ahead and start with a poll here.
That's a good call. Look, I was already forgetting something. So, quick poll just to understand who's our audience today. Have you built an AI agent before? We want to know if we're talking to experts, early experts, or this is the first time and you're just learning. Oh, we have a lot of yes, that's good. Nice.
About 50-50. Okay. Nice. It looks like it's settling right at that 50-50 mark.
Nice.
Slightly more yes. Okay. Awesome.
Nice.
I think we'll close the poll in just a second here.
Mm.
Looks like a few more votes are rolling in. So it looks about 57, 42% yes, no. So yeah, for today, we're going to, as Raul had mentioned a little bit earlier as well, we're going to be diving into a in-depth discussion around how to build voice agents inside of Vapi, but also we're going to be covering a live build out of using Make as an integration layer to connect your Vapi voice agents to your entire tech stack as well. So before we actually dive into Vapi and into Make, I want to go over a few key concepts, especially considering about half the audience here today has never built with a voice agent as well. I want to make sure that everybody is brought up to speed in the same level of understanding around, first off, what are voice agents, what is Make, as well, if you guys are unfamiliar with Make or haven't used any type of integration or iPaaS tool before. And then how do these tools work together to supercharge your workflows inside of your business? So after we cover some of those key foundational concepts, I'll go ahead and share screen on a live walkthrough of Make as a tool and show you guys kind of what that building experience looks like inside of Make so that you have some foundational context whenever we get into the live demonstrations of what we're looking at whenever the voice agent is triggering different automations or we're sending data over to the Vapi voice agent as well. So after I give you guys a live walkthrough of the Make platform and what that building experience looks like, I'll showcase a live demo of a Vapi voice agent. So the voice agent that I have prepared for you guys today is a finance collections agent. And this agent is basically an outbound agent that will be reaching out to a customer who has an overdue invoice and is trying to collect on that invoice. So that will allow you to see how do we trigger outbound agents? How do we send data from our CRM or from our tech stack to a voice agent so it can reference those data points dynamically in the conversation? And then also, how can the Vapi agent also send data to your CRM, your project management system, your own tech stack as well to create updates, to search for information, or to send requests or create tickets on behalf of what's happening within that conversation. And then after we complete that live demo, I will conduct a live build out of a Vapi voice agent as well. And that voice agent that we will be building is a customer support agent that will be able to field different types of requests and create a ticket inside of HubSpot for this particular use case here today. So before we dive in, as I mentioned, want to cover some key concepts here around how Vapi and Make work together. So in its most basic form, basically a Vapi is a voice agent tool. So it's an AI agent that can speak through either a phone call or through a chat interface to address any type of customer concerns or even for different sales use cases as well. And so a phone call will come in to the Vapi voice agent, and there may be a question that is asked to that Vapi voice agent that it doesn't have information available inside of its prompt or its context, where it needs to either perform a search or create some type of update in one of your guys' tools. And so that's where Make comes into play. So Vapi will send a request over to a Make automation, and Make has a library of over 3,000 applications natively built into it to be able to then send and transform that data to either search for information or create records or calendar invites, create tickets, draft emails, confirmation emails, whatever the case may be. So it replicates more of a human-like flow with your voice agent as well. So after that data is processed by Make, Make will then send a response back to that Vapi voice agent, and that Vapi voice agent will then vocally confirm to the person that it's speaking to on the other line with some type of confirmation number or just a confirmation that the request has been processed, or it will answer the question with the information it extracted from the Make automation. So there's a few questions that you guys might be asking, and considering, some of you guys have already built out voice agents as well. These may be things that also allow you to supercharge the voice agent use cases that you've already been putting in place. There may be some hiccups that you've ran into as well. I believe it was Daria had mentioned that there was some AI agents that she's been building out that she was running into some hiccups with. So we may be asking questions like, how do I connect these assistants to my tech stack? Kind of answered that in the previous step, but we'll be going a lot deeper in the how today, where you can actually see what that building experience looks like. The second question you may be asking is, can I trigger a Vapi assistant from something happening in another software? So this is definitely possible, and the live demo of the finance collections agent will be triggering an outbound agent from a search that is being performed in our CRM. So in short, the answer is yes, and I'll showcase that in a little bit here. And then once the conversation is done, how do I keep the automation going? So after that call is completed, how do we make sure that the conversation and the requests that were made on that conversation are still followed up by your team and by a human on your team after that conversation is done? So how do we make sure that we're actually fulfilling on the back end actions that need to happen as well? And so all of that's going to be covered today. So to go a little bit deeper in how Vapi and Make work together. So Vapi, as I mentioned, whenever there's some type of question or there's some request that is made to the voice agent, then that Vapi agent will trigger what's called a tool inside of Vapi. And these tools are basically what's called a webhook. And a webhook is just a request of data that's being sent from one tool to another. And so Vapi will collect information from the person on the phone, maybe their name, their email, some contact information, a description of some type of issue that they may be facing, and it will combine that data into different variables and send a tool call or a request to a Make automation. So that becomes the trigger of our automation inside of Make, where we receive the data from that Vapi agent, and we use that data to then perform a series of automated actions in a Make scenario. So inside of Make, you can map that tool data to different actions inside of your tech stack. And then once you process that information, whether it's what times do we have available on the calendar for a particular call to be booked, or can you submit a ticket to have your team reach out to me and help me with XYZ problem, or whatever the case may be, then the Make automation will feed that data back to the voice agent through a webhook response. So Make passes a confirmation back to that Vapi agent, and the agent is able to then respond in real time with some type of confirmation information, whether it's answering with certain times that are available on the calendar, or maybe a ticket confirmation number, or some type of expected next steps, like you should have received an email that confirms that your request has been submitted. Something along those lines. And so this is the best way to make sure that your Vapi voice agents can simulate a real life human interaction on the phone and actually perform tangible updates inside of your systems as well. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen and give you guys a live walkthrough of the Make platform to start. And this is just to give you guys a foundational understanding of what Make really is and how this plays hand in hand with the Vapi voice agent as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, perfect. So right here, you can see this is my Make dashboard. And there's a ton of cool things such as analytics dashboards and things of that nature. But where the real magic happens inside of Make is when you click on this Create Scenario button. And so a scenario inside of Make is just our term for an automation. And so for us to build out a scenario, we first need to define what that trigger of the automation is going to be. So we need to also understand what the use case we're trying to build for is to determine what that trigger will be. You can see we have a library of over 3,000 applications that are natively built and you can easily connect and tap into. But for this use case here, we're trying to connect a HubSpot CRM to our Vapi voice agent. So let's go ahead and search for HubSpot. And you can see that we have a library of different actions that we can trigger or send requests through. So let's say that we want to trigger off of a CRM object, and let's say that we want to trigger off of a change to a contact. So now it gives us the opportunity to define any output properties that we want to receive from that contact. And let's say we want to watch anytime a new contact is created. So we go ahead and click save here, and we can choose when we want this to trigger from, and we can say all, and there we go. We've configured our trigger, and now this automation will trigger anytime a new contact is created in our CRM. Now let's say that we needed to take some of the information from this HubSpot contact record, and we needed to transform it. Like let's say we needed to change the format of a phone number to make sure that a Vapi voice agent can read the format the phone number is in. So we can use this phone number step here, and we can search from all the variables that we receive from HubSpot, and we can even search in here for phone and pass through our phone number just by dragging and dropping it directly here. And then we can choose our default country for parsing. For this case, I will do the United States, and we'll go ahead and save that here. Now, if we wanted to take that phone number and send that over to a Vapi voice agent, we can just search for Vapi, and you can click on that app, and we can create a call. So this would allow us to then select our assistant that is within our Vapi account. And let's just pick any random one. And now we can pass through the contact name, such as the first name and the last name here. And then we can select whatever phone number that we want to select or call from within Vapi. And then we can pass through our number. And as you can see, we have multiple different formats here for Vapi specifically. We need that E164 format, as you can see right there. And then we can define any assistant overrides and also include any variable values here. So these variable values are very important whenever you're triggering an outbound call inside of Vapi, because this is how you can take information from your HubSpot contact. And let's say we want to pass through the name of the customer. I'll just go ahead and grab those variables that I have from up here. then we can pass through the first and last name. And now our voice agent will be able to request or talk to this person by the name dynamically that it receives from HubSpot. We can also pass information such as, maybe an email address. Pass through the email address. Now, the other nice thing is we have a library of different functions that you can see here that interact with things such as date and time variables, text and binary functions, math functions, etc. And so, for example, if we wanted to say, current date as a variable, we could then use this now variable, but this will be in a format that the AI agent wouldn't be able to read. So we can use this format date variable to then format the date into a formula or a format that the AI agent would be able to read and understand. So now, just by building a very simple formula here, you can then transform this variable, this date variable, into this format here. And so that kind of covers a high level of the building experience here. A few other call outs are that we have routers, and these routers allow you to add different logic branches to say, if this variable is equal to X, come down this branch and perform this series of actions. Whereas if this variable is equal to Y, then come down this branch and perform this series of actions. And you can add as many branches to these routers as you want as well. So you can get very robust with the logic that you put in place inside of your Make scenario. The last thing that I'll share about building inside of Make is that we have a library of different error handlers here, such as break and commit and all of these different things where if, for example, there was some type of error that occurs, then your automation can automatically have a retry logic that's built into it to make sure that it can reprocess the information and successfully complete the request. So that pretty much covers it for a high-level overview of Make. Let me go ahead and put the slide back on stage. So now, the moment you guys have all been waiting for, we'll get into a live use case of a finance collections agent inside of Vapi. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again here. Perfect. So this is going to be the automation inside of Make that we will be using to trigger our outbound agent. So just to explain how this works, inside of HubSpot, you can see we have this invoice. This invoice is, invoice 1002. You can see the total balance due is 1725. There's a contact that is my contact information here. We can even have a due date here. We can see how many days it's overdue. And so this is the invoice that we will be having our finance collections agent call me to follow up and collect on. So basically what we're doing here is searching for the invoices that are overdue. We're listing the association so we can get the contact information. And you can see that this has all of my contact information here. Then we're parsing that phone number in that E164 format so that our Vapi voice agent can create that call. So let me go ahead and grab my phone, make sure that I have it readily available, and we'll go ahead and give this a run.
Hey there, this is Alexis from Blue Sky Media Customer Support. Is this Alex Hinkle?
Yes, hi.
Great, thank you for confirming. I'm calling because I see that you have an overdue invoice for 3 months. Here, I'm calling because I see that you have an overdue invoice for our 3-month SEO package. The invoice number is INV minus 1002 and the amount past due is $1,725. Am I able to process that payment with the billing details we have on file?
Is there any way that I'd be able to change the card details that I have on file there?
Of course. Could you please provide the card number, expiration date, and CVV of the card you'd like to use to process the payment?
Yes. So card number will be 123-456-7890. The CVV will be 123, and the expiration date will be 12 of 2029.
Thank you for providing the new card details, Alex. Is it okay if we run the full balance on the new card you've provided?
Yes.
Thank you, Alex. I've submitted a ticket to our payment resolution team to process the payment with your new card details. You should receive a confirmation email once the payment is processed. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you. Perfect. So there you can see a live use case. That Vapi voice agent did a great job as well at sounding natural and sounding human. And you could also notice that it referenced multiple different variables from the invoice object, the contact object from our HubSpot CRM. So for example here, let me just unpack a little bit of what happened there so that because it was kind of happening a little fast. So first and foremost, we got certain properties such as the line items, the amount, the invoice number, the due date, and then we also got some contact information here. So it could talk, it could talk to me by name. So we got like my name here, my phone number. I think those were the only pieces of information that we passed through. And then we, inside of our overrides here, we can add all of these variable values so that the voice agent was then able to reference the total amount due, the product, the due date, the invoice ID, the contact name, email, and phone number here. So this is how that voice agent was able to recognize me by name, reference all of those invoice details. Let me go ahead and log into my Vapi account to show you guys the backend configuration of this Vapi agent as well. So inside of Vapi, we have our list of assistants, and this is Alexis, our financial collections assistant. So you'll see that there's that initial message that she started the call off with, and it's even referencing my contact name that was passed through that request. Now, this is one of the default template assistants that I've just made quite a few tweaks and changes, but you can see here that I'm very explicitly inside of the system prompt, defining what the identity and purpose of this agent is, and then also defining key variables that the agent should know. So by bringing them directly into the prompt, the agent is then very able inside of the script of the conversation to reference and call back to things such as the invoice number, the amount due, the product that's referenced, etc. So then there's different things such as the voice and conversation tone, and then we have our introduction and the entire conversation flow here. So you can see things such as, this is information that we're going to give context on at the beginning stages of the conversation. I'm calling because I see that you have an overdue invoice for the 3-month SEO package. Invoice number is IMV 1002. Amount past due is this. Am I able to process that with the billing details we have on file? It's exactly what the voice agent said. And then it collected information such as the card number, expiration date, and CVV that then was stored on in the voice agent and used to update our ticket inside of the CRM. And then we have some criteria here for the support ticket creation and some closing guidelines here. You can see different escalation situations that are included here, any limitations that we do not want the agent to be able to perform, and any type of call management pieces here as well. So that's how we're prompting the voice agent. And then in this tools section here, you can see we have this create ticket tool. And whenever I switched my screen to this automation here, this is what created the ticket, which we can see inside of our CRM right here. So this ticket is has the name of the customer, billing charge for new card on invoice, 1002. Here's the date of the request as well. You can see the ticket description is also included here that was provided from the Vapi voice agent. So charge the new card provided for card number 12345678990, expiration date 12 of 2029, CVV 123 for the full balance. So everything that I had given to that Vapi voice agent, it was able to collect as information to create this ticket description and create this ticket inside of our CRM. Pretty cool stuff, right? So now we're going to get into the process of actually building it out live. So let me go ahead and just switch to our next slide here. So we're going to be building out a customer support agent. So really the biggest difference between the finance collection agent and the customer support agent is that we're just not going to be triggering that customer support agent from an outbound perspective. A customer support rep will most likely be receiving some type of inbound request or an inbound phone call with a customer that has some type of issue or concern. But the main tool call that we will be building out live together will be this ticket creation process and flow automation that you guys had seen right here. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, perfect. So this is the automation that we will be creating today. And so let me go ahead and just clear out my screen a little bit and get to a new scenario. So the first thing that we're going to need to do whenever we create a new scenario is define what that trigger will be. So as I mentioned in the beginning here, and if we go ahead and look at our reference automation, it's going to be triggering off of that tool call request inside of Make. So first and foremost here, we're going to start off by searching for Vapi. And if you scroll down, any of the trigger modules are going to have this instant and acid purple tag here. This means it's a webhook based action and can be triggered in real time as well. So we're going to watch for a tool call request, and you can see that it's asking us to create a webhook here. So what we'll do is we're going to add a new webhook, and we're just going to call this test ticket creation. And then we're going to give this tool a name inside of Vapi. So we'll call this create ticket test. And then the description that you give to this tool is very important because it is what the AI agent in Vapi is using to decide which tool to call at which period in time. So we will say this tool creates either a billing, support, or technical ticket in our CRM. And then we can define any tool properties. So these properties are going to be any of the variables that the AI voice agent will collect and send to this Make automation as well. So we're obviously going to need the contact name, the first and last name of the contact who is submitting the ticket. As I mentioned, these descriptions are very important to make sure that your AI agent is accurately collecting the information. We're also going to do the contact email because we're going to need that contact email address to search inside of our CRM and find the contact or create the contact. So we'll say the email address associated with the contact submitting the ticket. Then we will also do a ticket type. Billing, support, or technical are the only three types of tickets provided or allowed. So we're basically just saying pick one of these three options: billing, support, or technical. And then we will do ticket name, a 3 to 6 word name or title for the ticket request. And then we will do ticket description. A detailed written description of the request or of the ticket request the customer is submitting. And that will be text as well. So now, whenever we go ahead and save this, this will automatically connect to our Vapi account. And in the tools section here, you can see this create ticket test tool has now been created. And if we go ahead and look at the parameters here, all of these parameters have already been defined. And if we click into any of these, you can see the description has also been passed through for each one of these as well. So basically, by setting up this trigger on our voice agent or on our make scenario here, that's what then allows us to create the tool inside of Vapi directly. Okay. So now that we have our tool created, we can now create our assistant inside of Vapi as well. So Vapi has a lot of different templates, quick start templates for different use cases here that have a really strong structure to it. And so I'm going to use this customer support specialist that we have here because I think this one just out of the box does the best job at creating a really strong conversation flow. So even for like the finance collections agent, I believe that I used this template and tweaked it as well. The biggest thing that we're going to change to this prompt that we have here, everything here should be good for our demonstrations purposes. The biggest thing that I'm going to change, I actually have an example here, is this identity and purpose. So you'll see your primary purpose is to help customers resolve issues with their products, answer questions about services, and ensure satisfying support experience. You can only create tickets for a human to process these support requests. You can only handle billing support and technical requests. So we want to make sure that we're adding that context to tell the agent that it is able to create tickets and that its primary function is to create the tickets for support requests. There's things such as the conversational flow that we can get into adjusting, resolution steps and closing, the response guidelines, pretty much the same structure as you guys can see as the finance collections agent as well. So this is a really good template to use. And if there's any changes that you would need to make as well, you could also copy this prompt, put it into some type of AI and say, update this prompt, but keep the main structure and sentiment of this system prompt for this use case. You could also play around with some of the other templates that they have in Vapi as well. But we're going to go ahead and publish this agent. There we go. Now we need to make sure that that tool that we just created is connected to our agent. So we have this create ticket test tool that we want to connect to our agent. And once we connect that tool, we can publish this tool as well. And now, so the first thing we need to do to finish building out our automation is we need to send data to this automation to make sure that this workflow can process the data and we can use that data to map it in other instances as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click run once, and this just means that our automation is going to be listening for data from our voice agent. So I'll go ahead and just do a test.
Hi there, this is Alex from Tech Solutions Customer Support. How can I help you today?
Yeah, hi. I'd like to create a technical support request because I'm having issues setting up my SSO configuration on my account. Can you create a support ticket to have your team reach out to me? My name is Alex Hinkle, and the email that I have on file is a.hinkle@make.com.
Give me a moment. I've gone ahead and created a technical support ticket for you. Our team will reach out to you shortly at the email address a.hinkle@make.com to help resolve your SSO configuration issue. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
That is it. Thank you. So the biggest thing that I wanted to have happen is that I wanted this create ticket tool call to happen so that now I can see that data inside of my Make automation. And so now you can see the tool calls and we can see all of the different variables that we had configured in that trigger. So now we can use these variables to then pass them through to other steps inside of our workflow. So the first thing that we're going to have to do inside of this workflow is either create or update our contact inside of HubSpot. So we're going to use the, let me just search for a contact in here, and we'll use this create or update a contact. And we're going to use we're going to map in our variables here. So we're going to map in the first name. And this first name is actually a great opportunity for me to show you guys how you can use different functions inside of Make. Because if you notice, this contact name is first and last name. So we only want the first name to map into this variable here. So the way that we do that is we can map our variable, and then we can use a two-stack function, which will be our get and our split function. So what this does is basically this split function takes our first name and last name, and as you can see in this library here, we define what the separator is. So there's a space between the first name and the last name. And then we want to get the first name from the split values. So we're basically going to say, okay, let's get the space. And once we split it into two different objects with the first name and the last name, we want to get the first object from that array. So that's going to be how we would map our first name. And then we'll go ahead and map our last name here as well. And we can just copy this function here and change this value to 2. Then we can also pass through our email. Our email is going to be a required field for contact creation or updating, which we have here. And that's all we're going to need for the contact to be either created or updated. And then if we reference our previous automation that we have here, the next step is a router where we are defining if it's a billing, support, or technical request. So we're going to then take that variable from the Vapi tool call, which was the ticket type. So that ticket type is going to be here, and we'll say this is equal to billing. And we'll save this here. Then we'll add another step, and we'll say if the, here we go, tool calls, ticket type is equal to support. And we can do else will be technical. All right, perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create our ticket. So in the subject, we could pass through a series of different properties. This is basically going to be the name of the ticket that we have inside of HubSpot. So basically here, we could pass the contact name, then we could pass the ticket name, then we could also pass maybe the date. So we can use that format date, pass through the time right now, and then month, day, year. And there we go. So now we have our subject. We can also select our ticket pipeline and the pipeline stage, and then we can add any properties that we want in here as well. So we can use our create date, and we can map this here. And then we can also do our ticket description. And we can pass through the ticket description that we get from the Vapi voice agent here. There we go. So now in HubSpot, whenever you create an object, you need to create an association between objects for them to be related. So this is basically just a relationship between two objects inside of the CRM. So we're going to create or pass through our contact ID here and our ticket ID here, and that will then create an association or relationship to those two items inside of the CRM. And now that we have created our ticket, we can then respond to our tool call and pass through the tool call ID, which will be, if we go into our tool calls, the ID right here, and then we could say the ticket was successfully created. Ticket ID is this. And we can pass through from a create a ticket step, the ID right there. Then if we wanted to also potentially trigger some type of email that's going out as well, we could even have an AI in this simple text prompt say, create a HTML coded email summarizing this ticket request. And we could pass through all of the ticket details that we get from the Vapi voice agent. So we can go here. And we should be able to pass through just this arguments array. And it should have all of the data that we want there. And then we could use maybe a Gmail step to send a new email to, and then we pass through the email address, which will be right here. Then our subject. Your support ticket is submitted, and we can pass through the ticket ID right here. And then body contents will be right here. And then we can go ahead and save. And then now on each one of these branches, it will be the same type of flow. So we can also just copy all of these steps here, delete this filter that we have here, and then delete this module here. And now we have our support branch configured. And then we can also do the same thing here as well. All right, so now create ticket test. Now, since we have the data from the previous test that we ran, we can go ahead and use this previous execution runs data to then click run once. And it looks like we did run into an error here. Let's see what potentially that error might have been. It looks like the date format might have been slightly off for that. Let's just see. So it looks like we don't need the format date for that step. So I'll go ahead and delete this. And that's the value of also seeing these builds live, because you know that you can know how to live troubleshoot and problem solve on the fly as well. We'll change this date variable here. And let's go ahead and give that another try. And our ticket was successfully created. The association was created as well. So if we go back into our tickets, you can see that SSO configuration ticket has now been created with all of the information that was extracted from the AI agent. Customer is experiencing issues setting up SSO, needs assistance from the technical team to resolve that setup problem. And I believe I should have also just received that support ticket conversation or email right here. So it's showing the support ticket was submitted, has the ticket summary and all of the ticket details passed through here as well. So that pretty much covers how you would go about building out a workflow that's connected to a Vapi voice agent and sending data to the agent so it can follow up and send confirmation emails and create follow-up requests from the team after that conversation has been completed as well. So just to recap a little bit of what we've covered. We've covered how to easily connect your voice agents to your tech stack. Also, how to trigger outbound AI agents from events that are occurring inside of your CRM or your tech stack. And then also how to make sure that the impact is extended beyond just the immediate conversation that's happening for follow-up requests being submitted for the team as well. So if you guys are interested in becoming a solution partner with us here at Make and building out cool use cases like this Vapi voice agent for our customers, then go ahead and scan this QR code that you see on screen. There will be a quick application that you could fill out that will get you in contact with Raul and the members of our team to work with you on seeing if it's a good fit for you to become a solution partner here at Make. Thank you. So with that, I'd love to open it up for any type of Q&A. It looks like there's a few questions that were submitted. So can I sell this agent to a police station? That's an interesting question. I'm not entirely sure. It would be more so, I guess, on the police stations, and if there's certain types of security criteria that they would have in regards to like how they interact with AI. I know that any time that companies are dealing with very sensitive information, they require certain security guidelines. And some of our enterprise customers even have non-AI clauses in the contracts that we sign with them because they have such strict guidelines around AI use policies. So to be honest with you, that would be more of a question for a potential prospect, I would say. David, I see that you just popped on here. Do you potentially have an answer there as well?
No, exactly as you were saying there. I think it's really around questions of confidentiality and protection of personal identifying information, and that's going to vary by jurisdiction. So
Yep.
Yeah, you need to check on what's appropriate for your jurisdiction. There's a couple of other questions on the public list there, Alex, as well.
Oh, on the public list.
Didn't get round to. Someone asking if you were going to probably not for right now, but if it can be provided later, how are you going to show how you actually built the Vapi assistant itself? Someone else, Antoine was asking about that, and also Daria was asking if you're able to share a template or blueprint for any of the scenarios that you built.
Yes. So I'd be happy to, after this call, we can add links to this call recording. And what I can do is I can add the publicly shared link for that scenario that I had built out as a clickable link on the Wistia call recording that we have here.
Okay. There's a couple of other questions on the submitted side I haven't pushed live yet. So Lenny was asking the average cost for a call. You'd need to check that with Vapi. If you look at the vapi.ai/pricing page, they've got all their pricing information on there. It will vary depending on the particular providers that you use and tools that you use. And Dennis was asking, does the voice agent support multiple languages or English only? That really comes down to the text-to-speech and speech-to-text models that you use. There are a huge number, and I think somebody asked a similar question earlier. Speechmatics actually is one of the leading model providers on speech-to-text and text-to-speech. They've got over 55 languages, so you're probably going to find coverage certainly for the most common ones. What was the voicing provider that you used for the demo?
The voicing provider was 11 Labs. So that's like one of the default, like most commonly used voice providers. But there's a series of different voice providers that Vapi has that's immediately available. Cartesia, Rhyme AI, Play HT, IMNT, and then Vapi also has some of their own voice library as well.
Yeah, what I'd recommend doing is use an LLM like ChatGPT or Gemini and ask them questions about which are the benefits and trade-offs between the different models there. Some of them are quite specific to certain tasks or have big advantages in certain tasks. I think 11 Labs in particular is renowned for sounding very natural. Others are better on things called turn taking and interruptions in conversation. So you need to pick what suits best for your use case.
Yep, exactly. I see a couple other questions. I'm not sure, David, which ones on the public list you have responded to yet.
So all the ones that says that there's a reply on it. So if there's no reply there, then I haven't.
Okay, got it. So what was the voice provider? Are you going to show how you have made your assistant? Yes. So I went through that. So there's a couple responses there. Share the template. Can we talk about pricing for running Vapi and all the associated LLMs and phone services? So as David mentioned, there's a pricing page for Vapi that you can go ahead and take a look at. And then same thing for Make as well in regards to different plans and credit usage. But what I'll say, just for a basic guideline, at least whenever I'm looking in my Vapi portal, it's about 14 cents per minute. But that can vary, as David mentioned, based off of which LLM provider you're using, which model you're using, what voice provider you're using. So all of those things kind of play into that per minute cost. But just for a rough baseline average, you could think it's about 15, 14, 20 cents per minute for the voice agent. And then you can look at the pricing page on Make to see what your credit usage on a monthly basis would be as well. Awesome. So I think that, David, you've responded to all of the public ones. Let me see. What's the average cost for a call? What was the voice provider used for the demo? We covered that one. Can I use a Make tool to transfer to a Twilio number? So I know that for the phone numbers itself, you can buy those numbers or import Twilio numbers directly. The other thing that you could do is on Make's library, we do have Twilio as a tool that you can tap into, to where if you wanted to escalate to a Twilio number and basically do like an inbound routing, then you could also use a Make scenario to send a call to a Twilio number as well. So in short, you would be able to do that as well. Does the voice agent support multiple languages or English only? David, you had given a very extensive update on that. Do the calls work with squads? Moises, I'm not familiar with squads. Can you potentially either in the chat or submit another Q&A question that elaborates a little bit on squads? Is that a particular tool that you guys are using?
So I think that's really sort of the multi-agent capability of Vapi itself, where you can build sub-agents and pass tasks off to other sub-agents.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yep. So do the calls work with squads? Yes. I mean, as long as the tools, the AI agents and the sub-agents within Vapi are able to trigger tool calls and requests, then anytime that you are configuring those squads and you have some of that multi-tiered hierarchical routing for different agents, as long as you're configuring those tool calls, that's how you're establishing that connection between Vapi and Make to process any of that information as well. Besides Vapi, do you have any other recommendations? David, I'll lean on you for this one as well. I know that you've been exploring a lot in the voice agent space. Do you have any other recommendations for voice agents? I've seen a few that I've played around with, but let me see. I can't recall off the top of my head. Do you have any, David, that you'd recommend?
Really, I'd just if you're looking at all the different voice agent builders have different benefits and different skills. You can look at the list of voice agents on the public Make apps page. So that's make.com/en/integrations. You can drill down into AI and voice agents. There's a whole list there. If you want a comparison between them, again, I'd recommend using one of your favorite LLM to ask it a question for really what you're trying to do. But yeah, Vapi is really widely used and is a great developer toolbox and gives you all the access to all the low-level stuff. Some other solutions package things up much more. They may be very good for their particular niche, but don't give you quite as much flexibility. So it's a trade-off between the two.
Yeah, great answer there, David. And as I just did some research, a couple of the ones that I personally have also interacted with are retail AI. I've heard of Lindy as well being a pretty common AI provider that also has voice capabilities. AirCall is a very common one as well. So those are a few other recommendations that I've seen that work as well. Which GPT model would you recommend for Vapi? That's a great question. And the reason that I am saying that is the model that you're using does impact certain things like the latency, the speed of the voice response, the speed of the tool calls as well. And so using something like a higher level mini model, I would recommend most for a voice agent, unless you're doing like very complicated prompting. It's a very robust use case that has a bunch of different criteria, or you have a very extensive knowledge base that you would need the agent to be performing different rags or pulling information from. So if you're using like basic generic use cases, I would say go for like a 4.1 Nano or 4.1 Mini or something like that, or even like upwards of like the fives, and using those minis, because that will optimize your speed, it will reduce your latency, and also optimize your token usage. Whereas if you're doing more complex use cases, like they need to research information and there's a huge library of knowledge that you're upserting to the agent that it needs to have readily available, it might be better to use a higher leverage model like a 5.2, OpenAI's newest model, that can lead to more latency and some more processing time and pauses between the conversation flow. And a higher level of token usage, but also it will give you a higher quality of robustness and complexity. So it kind of depends on your specific use case and how you plan on using it, and how like prioritizing complexity of the use cases the agent is able to handle with the speed and the minimizing latency as well.
One thing, just wanted to call out. I see Ava from Vapi herself is in the chat. She's reinforced the point I made earlier about checking out their Discord for support, and she's also extended an offer that they may drop some extra Vapi credits as well if you introduce yourself in there and say that you've come from the Make webinar. So yeah, join the Vapi Discord. I've added the link for it there in the chat.
Thank you, Ava. Appreciate you sharing that with all the registrants and viewers for today. I think we have time for one more question. Any experience with creating agents that are HIPAA compliant? I know Vapi has a toggle, but not sure if we need to add more stuff on the back end. One thing that I will say is it depends on what type of EHR related information. So any electronic health records that you're collecting, if there's like specifics around people's medical conditions and things of that nature that you would be collecting, then that would be something you'd have to be very careful about whenever you are building out the tool calls in, let's say, Make, for example. But yes, you could toggle on HIPAA compliance on your voice agent. And then there's a feature inside of Make that you could turn on that allows your data processing to be confidential. So if you did have a HIPAA use case where, let's say, it was a receptionist for a doctor's office and there was specific information that it was collecting around, what's the reason for your visit, what medical conditions are you facing, something along those lines, and you were storing them as variables that you would be sending to Make, you would just want to make sure that your data is confidential as you're processing it through Make to make sure your entire agentic use case is HIPAA compliant. And other than that, I think that covers all of the questions that have come through the Q&A, and right on time as well. So thank you guys for joining today. It was tons of fun building out a Vapi voice agent with you guys, leveraging Make as the integration layer there. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the webinar as well. David, any final words for the viewers here today?
No, I think you've done an admirable job, Alex, as always. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I think Alex did a similar presentation at VapiCon in San Francisco towards the end of last year, and it was described by one of the audience members of the audience there as like watching somebody juggle a series of small poodles while riding a bicycle on a high wire. So yeah, I think we had much the same feeling again. And yeah, please check out Vapi. Please check out Make in combination with Vapi. And if you've got any questions, as we said, the questions for Vapi in their Discord and in relation